Bonita study session for October 26, 2023. Our interpreters for the evening are Sandra Carranza and Cesar Ruiz. And our greeting and support is Maria Hernandez. I'd like to go through closed session items. Item A, public employee employment, information was shared. Item B, conference with labor negotiators, CSCA, information was shared. Item C, SMEA, nothing to report. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, what happened to our flag?
Tickets? We're flagless.
What happened?
Oh,
please turn around.
It's just a habit, I tell you.
Yeah, right.
I know.
I'll wait for Mr. Limon. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. That was awesome. Good job, kids.
I know,
That was great.
I caught myself.
I know, I'm listening to the kids so I can stay in line with them, so great job. Item C, calendar of up and coming meetings and activities. November 9th, 2022, regular board meeting. November 11th, 2022, Veterans Holidays, school and district office closed. And at this moment in time, oh, excuse me, roll call, please.
Roll call. I was going to say we need roll call first. None of us are here yet until it's official.
Mrs. Cordero? Yes, I'm here. Mr. Hollinshead? Mr. Valencia?
Present.
Mrs. Flores? Here. Mr. Lara?
Here. And at this moment, it gives me the pleasure to have Miss Vice President, Miss Rita Alvarez Flores. She has a recognition she would like to present. Mrs. Flores?
I would. First of all, Dr. McDuffie, I love the opportunity to participate this way as a board member. And so with great pleasure, I would like you to help me welcome to the front over to this side, Miss Teresa Sanchez, who will be receiving district award. So may not need very quiet speaker, but just in case, I want to hand this to her so she can hold this in her about her, because I do have a few things to say. Teresa has been a classified employee of the Santa Maria Bonita School District for almost 39 years. I didn't even know that. I just thought she'd always been here, but I didn't realize it was 39 years worth. This is where her remarkable self has offered our students, parents, staff, ongoing service that goes beyond and above job. Teresa's nature is the ability to know when or what is needed in situations. Illness, stress, joy, share with families, district, also members by arranging for funerals, food, the gathering of clothes and furniture, in times when transportation was available. She on the line, making sure our families giving out prizes in the office for need a little special little gift. Celebration, definitely a celebrator girl here. Luncheon, barbecues, goodies, decorator of tables for charity events, classified events, MIA events. Dr. Duffy, first little dessert, the very first activity else from Teresa. She went right over and gave you a dessert at that particular time. She also has hugs, gifts, smiles that bring gratitude to many students, many parents, and many staff. Teresa attended Miller School, elementary school. So she's a homegirl around Santa Maria, through and through. Maria High School alumni, class of 1983. Her career as a bilingual aide at Rice, then became an aide at Rice in 1987. 88. In 1998, she was at school. That's years of family encounter. From there, at junior high and the cheerleader advisor. Now, let me tell you something. Involved, kids need to be involved. 2007, you'll see. That was
Yes, it was.
thank you for that. And definitely after I retired to our dear Teresa, she called me, and this was the first year I had retired. And a former student of mine, very, very ill, terminally ill. And unfortunately was not changed to election and have money, at which time we got together and were able to take the family on actual passing. That one stays in my mind often. I want to recall also that individual just one word. Just give me one word. Mover and shaker, that person. Woman of action, fun, smile, creative thinker, empowering, good, look, nice, gets things done, respectful, courteous, valued. And these are traits that she continues to model, and we are very proud of for them. Teresa comes from a family who has modeled community service of and for others. And I felt it very important that we know that her mom and dad Robert, mom Ruth, wave please. Andale. Combined service to our district, Santa Maria Bonita School District, of 54 years. Mr. Limon put in 28 years and Mrs. Limon put in 26 years. And we thank you for that service. Good modeling. 39. Sorry about that. 39. You know what? I got the wrong Robert. I gave Little Robert, 39 years. My mistake. She also has a brother who I gave 39 years to as an assistant principal in our district. She has a niece, Lisa Limon, Stafford, teaches, and I think 14 years in our district plus, but all also part of this that is modeled in her family. Now, Teresa is also a wife. I can't not mention this. Married to Mike. Mike, stand up. There you go. And in saying this, Mike is retired. And if you look around, people are shaking their head, no, he's not, because right now he's committing service. He's actually in action at JPO, doing duties around and again, helping our kids be the best they can be. And I thank you for that. Teresa also is a mommy. She has 2 children. I think Marissa was here. I saw her carrying one of them around. Okay, and Nick. Marissa works at Fessler Junior High as health aide and project clerk now. Things happen so quick. Congratulations. And Nick, her son, is a police officer in our town of Santa Maria, California. So again, they both have followed jobs. She is a grandma of 3, no more than 3, 4. See?
It's changing.
That's why I asked. Huh? Checking everything is always good. She's a Nina. She's an in-law. She's a friend. Yeah. She's a daughter. Lots of things. Many. But one of the things I always commend her on is her relationship. She builds relationships. She values the worth of those who come in contact with her. She continues to know about people and share good things about people and help our students, our parents, and our community members. And with appreciation for all of that, I could not give you this award because it's so meaningful. So I do want to thank you for the time, energy, to make a positive impact have on lives of our students in this district. You're always giving them either a good eye, or why are you doing that? Do it better, or the smiles that they need and the encouragement. They are very fortunate to ask for any that does remembers Mrs. Sanchez. They remember Mrs. Sanchez. She has given many of us wonderful experiences, and many of us have been influenced in her guidance. In closing, I have a favorite poem by Maya Angelou, and it just basically quickly summarizes the way she lives, the way she moves through life. And I'm going to close with that. It's very short. It goes, the best part of life is not surviving. It's thriving. Thriving with passion and compassion, humor and style, and generosity and kindness. So I thank you ever so much for all of that. But all. Now, in the style of Teresa, we awarded her this beautiful plaque. I hope you're off. But Tiana, would you bring something up for us? She always loves to model special things. So we brought you a special tea. And Amanda said she's going to get you a lanyard so you can wear it around your neck if you want. The key to our support, because you are definitely. Thank you on behalf of our students, our parents, and our community. Thank you.
Well, I am very thankful to all of you. I'm very humbled to receive this. And I'm very lost for words. I have always followed my parents in doing what they do. And I have always been supported by my family. And I do what I do because I love working for Santa Maria Bonita School District. I think that all the staff at Montefiore School is very loving and very supportive of our students, as well as the whole district. That's what we're here for, is for our students. And we love you guys. I think I'm honored. Thank you.
Let them go first.
Family, everybody, let's go.
Another great example of how so many of our employees in this district really go above and beyond and give so much more back to the community than what they receive. So there are no words, Teresa. Thank you.
No words. Congratulations, Teresa. Very well deserved. Item 4, public comment period. The public comments are intended for members of the public to address the Board of Education on items involving the school district. Such testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes, 450 words per person, subject, and 15 minutes total each topic. If an answer to a specific question is requested, the board president will, if appropriate, direct administration to respond in writing. And we'll just wait. Dr. McDuffie, do we have any public comments?
We have none.
Okay, thank you. Item 5, approval of agenda is presented.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Flores second. Roll call?
Mrs. Cordero? Aye. Mr. Hollingshead?
Aye.
Mr. Valencia? Mrs. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Lara?
Aye. Item 6, consent items. I have a motion?
Mr. Lara, I'd like to pull items 6A and 6E, please.
Say.
Six A, and what was the other one?
6A and 6E. We have a-
E?
E.
Okay.
Echo.
Echo.
Echo. Do I have a motion to,
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Ms. Cordero moved, Mr. Hollenhead seconds. Roll call?
Mrs. Cordero? Aye. Mr. Hollingshead?
Aye.
Mr. Valencia?
Aye.
Mrs. Flores? Aye. Mr. Lara?
Aye. Motion carries. Item 7A, award of bid number 5239, frozen, refrigerated, and pantry food products. Mr. Beecher, good evening.
Just a clarifying question, do we come back to those consent items after the action items, or do we go follow the consent items first and then go into action items?
We come back to them.
Come back.
Excellent. Thank you.
The-
Thank you very much, President Lara. This is a follow-up to our last meeting where we provided the board with several other items. We have tonight here, also Carlos described this.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is the award of bid 5239, frozen refrigerated pantry and food products. This was an RFP process. So just as a reminder, this is not a low bid award. This is based off of their total score as well as their cost. The specifications for this project were prepared by district staff, and they included 240 individual food items. The notice calling for the request for proposals was posted in Planet Bids, and it was advertised twice in the Santa Maria Times. Excuse me. 8 prospective proposers downloaded the RFP solicitation documents, and we did receive 3 proposals. They were received and opened on September 19th. We had an evaluation committee consisting of 3 district staff members. They evaluated all of the proposals based off of customer service and references, food safety plan, district questionnaire, and capability to meet the district's delivery requirements as well as cost. So you'll notice when you look at the table below that we're recommending awarding 179 items, and we went out for 240. The reason being is 28 items came back as a no bid. Typically that happens when either a product has been discontinued or a manufacturer may not want to lock in pricing for a year. So we did.
No bid? I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're no bid.
Okay,
So
got it.
we received no bids on those items. Some of them had comments that said, manufacturer will not guarantee pricing. Others were, this item's no longer available. And then the remaining 33, the bidders, they did bid, but they bid alternates and they weren't approved alternates. So we do have a process in place to make sure that we are getting products in that meet our standards. So in order to do that, they have to go through a process of submitting their alternates prior to the bid opening. And then Carlos's team will review those items. They send in samples. We go through a whole process, and then we issue out an addendum that says these are the approved alternates. That did not happen in this case. So we did have 33 items that were bid, but we couldn't award them because they were not approved and they were not on our approved list. We will be working with Carlos's team to take those items back out to bid, and we'll be bringing those back to you at a later date. So you'll notice that Cisco Ventura, they were low bid on 153 items, and Gold Star Foods was low bid on 26 items. So we are recommending that we make an award that we are recommending an award to Cisco Ventura and Gold Star Foods. They both met all of the specifications, the requirements, and they were deemed responsive. The initial term on this contract, this is a multi-year, so it will be 1 year with 2 optional 1-year renewals.
Now, when they do those renewals, will they be opened up again for bid, or they're just
No.
straight contract because they've got the first year then?
Yeah, so that when we do the optional renewals, at that time, once a year, when it gets close to time for them to be up, we'll send out a notice to them. We'll ask them, do you want to exercise the option? We'll say the district would like to exercise the option.
Yeah.
At that time, they'll come back, and at that time, they'll come back and they'll ask for either price increases or they'll hold their price. But again, that's all tied to the CPI. So we have something to evaluate those price changes on.
So the 29 items that were not available, will those items be replaced with something different? Or do you have an example of something that has been discontinued? I'm just trying to,
Good evening, my name is-
yeah.
Good evening, I'm Carlos Morta, the Food Service Coordinator. So that's a great question. We would like to offer a great variety of choices to the kids. So some of those items might be multiple flavors on a specific item. So for example, the pull parts, they may have like a pizza one, a enchilada one, or different flavors. So some of the ones that are the same product, different flavors, I'm not so worried about. The other ones, they do have some of the, for example, one of the tamales that we had previous years, that was a great hit that the kids really liked. Unfortunately, the company is no longer in business, or they got acquired by another business. And talking to the vendors, they are to come up with another choice or another option similar to what we have, but I did not want to risk and prefer to wait for the product to come out so we can taste it and make sure this is a part for our kids.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that context and that question, because just today I was asking, my high school students at Santa Maria High School, who are, proud products of our district here in Bonita. And right now they're giving feedback on ways to improve the school as one of their assignments. And one of the key items that they brought up, of course, is the food. They wanted more options. And specifically, they said they wanted more Mexican food options. So to hear that things like tamales are a hit, well, if they're tasty tamales, right? Because most tamales are good, but we know quality too is important. And so I'm glad to hear that, because that reminds me of the importance of culturally relevant foods, right? What are foods that our young people are accustomed to eating? Of course, we want to expose them to a variety of different fruits and vegetables. But what do we already know might work? Because we know that unfortunately some students choose not to eat because they just don't enjoy the food that they're being served. So I really appreciate you all paying attention to that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Need a motion?
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the award of contracts for bid number 5239, frozen, refrigerated, and pantry food products in an annual estimated amount of $1,530,000 to Cisco Ventura, Inc., and $136,000 to Gold Star Foods Incorporated, as presented.
I'll second.
Ms. Cordero moves, Mr. Valencia second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries to award of bid number 5239. Item B, award RFP number 5240, food service, paper products and supplies. Good evening.
Good evening. I don't think I said good evening on the first one, so I apologize. Good evening, board members. Good evening. Superintendent Dr. McDuffie and cabinet. So this is for 5240 food service, paper products and supplies. This was also an RFP process. We had 99 individual bid items on this one. Again, it was posted in Planet Bids and it was advertised twice in the Santa Maria Times. We had 17 prospective proposals download the documents. We received, and I have to correct this, we received 6 responses, not 5, but we're going to be recommending awarding to 5. So we received them on September 19th. We had an evaluation committee consisting of 3 district staff members. The evaluation criteria was very similar to the previous one, with the difference being that we changed out the health safety plan with the K-12 paper product supply catalog. If you look below, we're kind of in the same situation. We have, if you tally it up, we have 75 items that we're recommending to be awarded. And we had 24 items that we're going to need to rebid. The difference is on this one, we only had 1 item that was a no bid, and it was a can opener. So,
Really?
so yeah, all the others, the bidders did the same exact thing. They bid on it, but they bid on items that were not approved. So we'll be working with them to try to make sure that they get those products in for approval before it opens when we go out to rebid for those 24 items. In this case, we are looking to award to 5 of the contractors, which would be Central Sanitary, Daxwell LLC, Interbureau Packaging Corporation, P&R Paper Supply Company, and Cisco Ventura. Any questions?
Now, this is opened up every year then, right? It's not contingent like the other one year and then.
This is a multi-year. I apologize.
Is it?
This is a
Okay,
multi-year. All of our food service contracts, we try to do multi-years.
Okay.
And so we only bring them back if we run into issues,
Oh, I didn't.
then we'll have to bring it back and rebid it.
Can you share with us what the pros and cons are of doing multi-year versus just single year contracts?
So when you're doing multi-year, we find that they're far more competitive because the vendor's going to sharpen their pencil if they know there's a potential to have our business for 3 years versus 1. Also, when you look at this, like the previous one, 240 bid items, that takes a lot of work to go out and negotiate all that pricing with all those different manufacturers. So for them to have to do that once and they can go to the manufacturers and say, we're looking at a potential 3-year, they're going to sharpen that. So we have found that it is far more competitive to do multi-year for these type of products and services.
And could you provide some examples of some of these products? I think you mentioned a can opener was one of them.
Yeah, a can opener was one that was not bid. All the others were alternates. So on paper products, you want to just go off of it? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually brought some samples. The vast majority of our products that we consume for the districts are the 5 compartment trays, 12-ounce containers, and the breakfast. We call them breakfast bowls, but I think they're serving trays. We try for the most part. We try for the most part to go through compostable first. If compostable is not accessible or feasible for us, then we'll do recyclable next. And we really have tried to avoid styrofoam.
Oh, thank you.
We did have to use it during COVID for obvious reasons, but yeah, that's the last time we do.
You couldn't get anything during COVID. You had to get whatever you got.
Banana leaf.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate these examples, right? Bringing them in because that was something that I was discussing with Dr. McDuffie prior to the board meeting was, are these forks, knives, spoons? And if so, I know that some restaurants are being much more cognizant of being eco-friendly. And so that we are using far less plastic. I just saw in the news recently that a study came out about a very small percentage of plastic is actually recyclable. It's been marketed as being very recyclable, but unfortunately, I think 5% or less is actually recyclable. And so that what that means is that anytime we're using plastic, essentially 95 out of 100 times, it's not going to be able to be recycled. So seeing things like this that are biodegradable or compostable is going to be really, really great because it also educates our students, right, about ways to be more mindful. And I have also seen contract language, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. McDuffie, right, that all things being equal, that we're going to be always going for, eco-friendly products as opposed to things that are going to, pollute and damage our environment. So thank you for bringing those examples in.
Not to make a pun, but I can get you a good can opener for Pampered Chef. I'll tell you that right now. You won't cut your fingers when you take those lids off.
And if it breaks, you send it back.
Yes, sir. So just thought I'd put it out there.
I still have mine.
Do I have someone going to make a motion?
Go ahead.
I move to approve the award of contracts for RFP 5240, food service paper products and supplies, in an annual estimated amount of $10,300 to Central Sanitary Supply, $43,300 to Daxwell LLC, $9,700 to Interborough Packaging Corporation, $46,200 to PNR Paper Supply, and $123,300 to Cisco Ventura Incorporated as presented.
I second.
Mr. Hollingshead moves. Mrs. Cordero seconds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries to award RFP number 5240. Thank you. Item C, the 2023-24 school calendar scheduled holidays. Ms. Joanne Cameron, Dr. Joanne Cameron, excuse me. Good evening.
Good evening, board members and everyone. Thank you. Tonight, I'm bringing forward the 2023-24 school calendar with the scheduled holidays. This is a proposed calendar in conjunction with Santa Maria Elementary Education Association and California School Employees Association with the designated holidays that are matched to the calendar for your approval. And I brought back the calendar I used to do with dots. I like dots because you look at the dots and those are the student days, work days. So it's in your packet and I'll answer any questions you may have.
I like dots too.
Yeah. With the help of Chuck Knows, he's amazing. He could put these together, easy to read.
The question, unless anybody has one first. My question is, to what extent does this calendar match the calendar of the Santa Maria Joint Union High School District?
My understanding is that's the work in conjunction with them, with our families that go to Santa Maria High School District. At least some of the staff development days are different, but the start time and the ending time, that is the goal, is that we match that for our families. It's the only other calendar that we look at as the committee looks at the proposal, is to match those and the holidays. Those large holiday times like Thanksgiving, the winter break, even spring break.
So yeah, that's wonderful to hear because that is a concern that I often hear from our families.
Always.
Is when there wasn't when the calendars weren't matching, right? Some of our high school students were, staying to take care of their little ones. Exactly. If the little ones weren't at school. And so it just creates, and then also not matching our holiday breaks also creates challenges for our families if they're trying to leave for vacation or leave out of town for extended periods of time. So I'm really happy to hear that there's work being done to match those to the extent possible for the benefit of our families and students.
Agreed. That's always been the goal. And if our students start before the high school students, that's okay. But if the high school students start before ours, then they're left home alone.
Yeah,
But it's always
And just to clarify, as far as the matching of the days and so forth, we'll go ahead and confirm that, make sure we put in the update. I'm not sure if it's day for day. I think that might be part of your question. So we'll confirm that. I don't know if that's the case for this past calendar year or the 2 years ago when this was taking place. So we'll check that.
Thank you.
Confirm it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the 2023-24 school calendar and scheduled holidays as presented.
I'll second.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Flores second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries to approve the 2023 school calendar and schedule holidays as presented. Thank you. Yes. We're going to go back to the consent items. We'll start with consent item A. Mr. Beecher, authorization to file notice of completion of the RDZ contractors, bid 5238. Good evening, Mr. Beecher.
Good evening, President Lara. Good evening, school board. This is pretty routine business to prepare a notice of completion at the end of a project. All of the work is done. It starts a clock as far as how far out a subcontractor may be able to establish a lien against the project and against retention with the school district. And so it's always a good practice to get these recorded as soon as possible to start that clock exposure to claims. And so that's what this item is here tonight to do, is to acknowledge that the project is finished. And I know, Mr. Valencia, you have questions. I'm happy to respond.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, something that I'm wondering is, like, how did they do, with these portables being installed, right? What is our process for evaluating and documenting, right, the work that was done?
So it's a pretty long process that starts well before construction. So we first try and make sure we have a solid concept and design provided by our qualified design professionals. In this case, it's 19.6. Those designs, drawings go to the Division of the State Architect for approval in Los Angeles. They make sure it meets their code, their requirements for structure, fire, life safety, those kinds of things. And then when the contract starts, make sure that we have the right bonds and insurance in place, make sure they have the right safety protocols in place, and those kinds of things so they get off to a start. And then there's constant monitoring throughout the entire project, start to finish. We have a daily inspection from Division of the State Architect, independent inspector. We pay the bill, but they work for the DSA, and they make sure that the drawings that were approved in LA are what gets built in actuality here in Santa Maria. If there's a required specialty inspection, whether it's welding, concrete, the site work, as far as compaction, we have a specialty inspector who also monitors that work to ensure it's solid. And then staff, Mr. Cavazos or one of his team members is also constantly checking in with the contractor and the inspector, monitoring the installation and ensure that it's a high quality outcome. We're all done.
So now that the work has been completed, they take our district staff take a look to make sure that the project was done to all the specifications that you just talked about?
From the very beginning to the very end, they're constantly monitoring the quality of the work that's done. And if there are any shortcomings, develop it, or I'm sorry, they address it right then. The other thing, the other point to make is the contractor has a vested interest in getting it right the first time because their margins are pretty small as they move along. And if they make a mistake or they do something that's not exactly the way it needs to be, that rework that occurs is much more expensive for them to come out. It's all margin. They're making maybe 10 or 15% profit when they do the work the first time, coming back, they're losing money. They can't afford to make that mistake. They're pretty on it as well. We work with some great partners, but there's consistent monitoring. It's not like, wait, until we're ready to file the notice of completion. They go, well, let's go see before we send this to the school board. Let's go see how it looks. It's constant monitoring throughout the
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for that context. And then, so it sounds like, and do we keep track of a job well done, if you will? And are we mindful of that, like the next time, a bid comes out? And then likewise, are we also mindful when, the project didn't come out to, our liking? Like, is that something that we kind of keep track of as we think about like future projects?
Something that you can maintain in your memory, certainly make a record of it, because almost all of our projects are hard bid projects. If you have a bad experience with a contractor and they are the low bid the next time, we still get to work, right? But what we've learned from our experience is we have to do even more, monitor their work. We have to be even more present while the work is going on to make sure that it's going to be at our standard. So we can't necessarily change who we do business, but we can change how we do business.
And then, are these portables rentals or are we purchasing them?
So in this case at Bessler, the rental. The portables that had been out there were also rentals, but the monthly rent amount was quite a bit more than what we're leasing these for. So it made sense to swap out that component of it. Yes, they're rentals.
And that's what was going to be my follow-up question, or what are the pros and cons of the rentals versus the purchasing? Because, I would imagine that for long-term purposes, right, purchasing might make more economic sense, but maybe that's not the case. Could you provide a little context to that?
It can make more sense. Even over the long haul, it may make sense to lease. But in the short term, especially, it makes sense to lease. From a maintenance standpoint, probably makes sense to lease. From a standpoint of when you purchase a portable building, it's considered building a classroom. And so the Office of Public School Construction and the State Allocation Board, who dole out money through the school facility program, they'll dock your eligibility as if you built a classroom building when you buy portable. We have to be very mindful of purchase because it can cost us potential matching funds in the future. We're pretty cognizant of that. And you can exchange out a leased portable building, right, if you need to. Can end that lease if its purpose comes to an end. So if you know you have something temporary that's going to end, then leasing really makes sense. In this case, it made sense because the long term can be different than portable buildings. It also made sense because the lease amount for these new portables put out there is much lower than the old portables that are out there.
And then do you know, for the labor that's being used to do this work, do you know if it's a prevailing wage, living wage? Is it union, non-union?
It's required to be prevailing wage. So they're likely union, but it's required to be prevailing wage. I think generally speaking, they're almost all union labor.
And what's the difference between the prevailing wage and the living wage?
I haven't heard that term before. I've heard it as a theory, a living wage theory, but I haven't heard like a living wage requirement statute for the work. So that maybe, did you all hear, or I'm wondering if that relates to a wage higher than the minimum wage, that's more regional, is that does that respond to your question?
Yes, thank you. Make the recommendation.
Need to make a motion?
Yeah, so I'll recommend that the Board of Education authorize administration to file a notice of completion for RDZ Contractors, Inc., bid number 5238, installation of 2 district-approved portable classrooms and site work at Bessler Junior High School as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Valencia moves, Ms. Cordero second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Bid 5238. Thank you, Mr. Beecher. Item E, approval of board policies and administrative regulations, BPAR 3312.
Yes, thank you very much. Do you want to provide any context, Mr. Beecher?
This is a follow-up to the discussion item that we had at our last board meeting where I shared our intention to update our policies related to contracts, related to project delivery, related to bids, knowing that we have a significant amount of work that's going to be identified as part of our facility master planning process. It's always a good idea if you know you have a lot of, and also add on to that, our need to address implementation of universal transitional kindergarten, all day kindergarten. Those are going to bring more projects to the school district. So it seemed like a good time to really tune up our policy right, in these areas. 3312 is related to contracts, how we write contracts, how we issue contracts, how we make decisions around contracts. And so the changes that have been made in the policy that were a part of our discussion item, I provided the track changes version so the board could see what was being changed within the policy. What you have tonight is the actual final policy, how it will read, pending board approval, so that you can see exactly how it'll read. But that's the intention was to update those policies so that they comply with CSBA policy manual and make sure that our work is structured around policy and compliant with the law.
Yeah, and part of what I wanted to follow up with regarding this contract language is I wanted to draw attention on page 27. I'm not sure if you have access to the packet, Mr. Beecher. I do. The very last sentence reads, any contract for the sale or advertising of non-nutritious foods or carbonated or non-nutritious beverages shall be entered into a competitive bid basis pursuant to public contract 20111. And so what struck me about that is it made me think, to what extent do we have carbonated beverages on our campuses, either elementary or middle schools? So in other words, do we have like vending machines that sell sodas, for example? Do you know by any chance what the answer to that is?
I know that when I first came to the school district, we had some Coke machines, Pepsi machines on campus that were on timers. And so during the school day, they wouldn't operate because you couldn't have that available when students were on campus. And they would turn on the weekends and forget what the time was, after 30 or after 4 o'clock. Over time, those machines didn't provide the profit the distributor wanted. And they removed those machines. So I believe at this time, the only places that we have soda machines are in staff lounges where they're not accessible to students. That's my understanding.
Great, thank you. I also found some really interesting language in the contract for, again, non-nutritious foods or beverages. On page 28, the very top paragraphs reads, the board shall not enter into or renew any contract that grants exclusive or non-exclusive advertising or sale of carbonated beverages, non-nutritious beverages, or non-nutritious foods until parents, guardians, students, and members of the public have had an opportunity to comment on the contract at a public hearing held during a regularly scheduled board meeting. The board shall clearly and in a manner recognizable to the general public identify in the agenda the contract to be discussed at the meeting. And part of what really stuck out to me about this language was it sounds like there's a great emphasis on getting community input, right, for contracts that deal with non-nutritious foods and beverages. And something that I'm wondering is how can we as a board and as a district kind of apply that same very critical lens to this non-nutritious food and beverages, to all the foods that we're serving our students, to ensure that it's meeting, the needs of our students and of our families. And so that's just something that I wanted to, propose to our board to think about, is us taking a closer look at not just the non-nutritious stuff, but including the things that are deemed nutritious. The other day we were talking about pizzas, for example, right? And we were told that the pizza that we serve is more nutritious per se, right, than the commercial pizza that's served, out in the community. And I'm not sure if a lot of folks know that necessarily, right? Because when they see Pizza Hut, they think it's the Pizza Hut that they get on the street. But it sounds like if we have a similar product, it's going to meet higher nutritional expectations, which is great to hear, but I think it's still important that we, as a board and as a community, look at those foods so that we can ensure that our students are making wise choices and that our families are educated as well. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to pull this item. I also wanted to draw attention to the second paragraph on page 28, so right below that. It reads, "The public hearing shall include but not be limited to a discussion of the nutritional value of foods and beverages sold within the district, the availability of fresh fruit, vegetables, and grains in school meals and snacks, including locally grown and organic produce, the amount of fat, sugar, and additives in the foods and beverages discussed, and barriers to student participation in school breakfast and lunch programs." So again, just reading this makes me think, wow, it's a really important reminder of looking closely at the food that we're serving our children. I appreciated seeing things like locally grown, right? We look at where we live, right, on the Central Coast, right? We have access to all this fresh produce that doesn't always make its way sometimes into our schools. And so that's why I want to continue to encourage our board to take a closer look at this, see how we can move the needle in encouraging more local produce in our schools, more organic produce, or just being educated about what's the difference between something that's organic or not organic. I think that's an area. And also, what are the barriers to student participation in school breakfast and lunch? So if our children are not eating for whatever reason, then what could we be doing there to make the situation better? Because we know that there's a connection between the food that our children eat, or whether they do or don't, and academic outcomes. So that's why I think it's so critical that we pay special attention to this issue.
Board Member Valencia, just to answer that, or just to talk about that a little bit, I know that we've been talking about, and we don't have our district student leader advisory group here, but I know that Carlos is going to be working with them and doing some taste tests and getting some feedback from students. And Carlos, do you have a...
Yes, that's right. We are definitely, during COVID, it was hard for us to get the feedback from the students, but now that we're getting some normalcy back, we are seeking that feedback from, and this committee is a perfect opportunity. We are planning some ways to do with this committee. And also I want to bring up all of the topics that you were talking about. It is a policy that we currently have, which is the wellness policy, which can be renewed and revised every year. So that is definitely something.
And I'm going to be talking with the board as well as far as tasting the food that is a part of Santa Maria Bonita. And I'll be talking to Carlos as well, but I think that's a good idea for you also to have that insight into that. So we'll talk more about that as well.
Yeah. And on a side note, Mr. Lara, I did find avocados with the local farmers. So we are rolling those out, fresh avocados from Morro Bay.
I read that article.
We're learning the process on how to mass serve them, but
all we need is at Santa Maria High School, the tech program to grow everything we need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did want to follow up and say, in conversations with Dr. McDuffie, he mentioned something about the possibility of sort of like a nutritional facts, kind of like an easy access to that in the works. And that sounds really exciting to me because I know what I was sharing with Dr. McDuffie is whenever I want to purchase a sugary beverage, if I look up the nutritional value, definitely makes me think twice or maybe drink a bit less of that beverage. And so I do know that there is power in educating our populace, especially our students, right, in what they're consuming so that they can become intelligent, more knowledgeable consumers. So the idea of like an easy access nutritional facts for the foods that we serve our children, I think is a really great idea. So I'm looking forward to seeing, the rollout of that.
Yes, and also the parents. Takis and Cheetos, hot Cheetos are our nemesis. So
Absolutely.
I know it's a lot cheaper for a parent to buy than a healthy meal, but
Do you know at the high school if they have nutritional facts coming out of the area for the kids when they're buying food? Like
I'm not aware. No, I'm not aware. So if they're not, we can take the lead.
Oh, no, I'm just wondering if they're already doing it, if they got it on their packaging as being older kids and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why this is such an important topic, right? We're an institution of learning, right? So what better place for our young people to learn about these things than right here where we're connecting, they're learning in science, right? They're learning in all these things, all these concepts that apply to what they're eating. Thank you very much.
I thought that for some reason, when Mr. Valencia talked about this on page 27, that first paragraph he talked about at the bottom, I thought that was old language and it was struck because we didn't want those. I don't know why we would be making a bid for a non-nutritious or carbonated beverage at all.
Yeah.
Carbonated waters, that's the only reason I thought maybe they left it in. I mean, it's not.
I wouldn't categorize that as non-nutritious, but yeah. I mean, because I mean.
Hydration, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see any point in bidding on anything non-nutritious, but.
Yeah, what I can tell you is the reason it's in here is because CSBA recommends it as part of their policy. I don't have a vested interest in it other than that, but as we all know, policy tends to find its way into our manual, stay there a while. So while we're all on the same page, we probably won't ever see a bid come for non-nutritious carbonated beverages. That could happen in 15 or 20 years. And if we don't have a policy, if the district doesn't have a policy that says, if you do this, here's how you do it so the public is engaged in the process, it won't be available to them at the time. So, I mean.
So you're saying that the follow-up paragraph is the key, that it's going to be open to the.
Correct.
I see.
The screener, if you will, Mr. Holland said, is here is the process. If you're going to take this on, here's the process for bringing on non-nutritious beverages. And it'll be very public. The board will lay out the support of staff why this has happened, how these choices.
I did want to also point out on page 29 that there may be a potential typo under the section that reads contracts for personal services. The last sentence on that paragraph reads to enter into or renew such a contract. I believe it's supposed to read renew, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it meant to say renew such a contract?
I'm betting the word is renew.
That's what I'm betting as well.
Yeah.
So just might want to either let them know or update that for our own policy.
Thank you.
No further questions.
Do I have a motion?
I can make the motion that the Board of Education approve the board policies and administration regulations 3311 bids as presented.
Second.
Mr. Valencia moves, Mr. Holland had second. All in favor? Aye.
312 or 3311?
3312.
Okay.
Opposed, motion carries to approve regulations BPAR 3312. Thank you, Mr. Beecher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, discussion item, Superintendent Update 100-day report. Good evening, Dr. McDuffie.
Good evening, President Laura, board members.
Good evening.
How's everybody doing?
Okay, thank you.
Good. It's great to be here. And let me just get set up really. know what happened here. I had,
It's technology.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Right
say too.
time.
Yep.
wrong time. When I started here, July 1st, I told the Board of Education that I was going to provide you with my priorities after about 3 months in. We call it a 100-day report, a 100-day plan, 90 days, whatever it may be. This is my report to you. So I want to set this up. My presentation. On my 100-day. So what is a 100-day report? It is a collection of feedback received through meetings, observations, surveys from the first 100 days of the superintendency for the purpose of creating a roadmap for SMBSD family to move towards higher student achievement. And this is really looking at all the types of meetings that I've had since I've been here. Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, met with the mayor, city manager, police chief, principals, district administrators, and the list goes on. And I just put a few down to just give you an idea of what that looks like. And I had some reflections on that. I'm having trouble.
I appreciate that visual, Dr. McDuffie. I believe that was the Loteria project that Santa Maria High School students, Pioneer Valley students, Rigetti students created
Yes.
in their Mexican-American literature course. So it's really powerful images that we got to see actually also at the grand reopening of Corazón del Pueblo.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that.
Fairlawn.
This was a
Is that Fairlawn?
Yeah, the students that created the.
Yeah, that was nice. It was nice.
Okay, very long. So I made some reflections on my meetings. And so basically, there was three things that I felt these comments and the feedback that I received fell into. And that was number one, agency. The idea of being in control or not being in control. And I got from both sides a feeling of I can't make decisions. And so that was something that fell into one of the categories. The next one was communication. And again, when I had conversations with administrators and the public or community members, as well as teachers, it was both sides. There was some that said communication is great, we got a lot of information, and others said, well, we have communication, but it's not the right communication, or it's not all the communication. And so I got feedback from both sides from that. And again, that's another category that I got from my meetings. And then finally, a mission or a lack of a mission. Really, people working in silos in departments and not really knowing what the other is doing, or maybe working on different work within the same school district. And so I got a lot of information about not knowing what the other department was doing, or what the other departments were doing was not necessarily in line with what they were doing or what they were working on. So those were the categories that were a part of that. And so looking at my first 100 days, these are some of the comments, not all of the comments, but some of the comments in our meetings when I was meeting with staff. And I had three questions that I asked the staff. And those were, what do you love about Santa Maria Bonita School District? What is it that is a challenge? And what are your expectations of me? Very simple. And so I go to what is it that they loved, and these are celebrations for Santa Maria Bonita. First of all, the focus on students first, the vision for instruction and alignment. There's no status quo. Growing pains with inclusion. They talked about it in a positive. Also, they talked about parents value and appreciate teachers, and teachers are open for change. And finally, great families, excellent teachers, community support and partnerships, and keeping a consistent message. And so those were things that were part of that. What do we love about Santa Maria? And so we go to the challenges, and it's almost like looking in a mirror in regards to some of the comments. And again, these are comments, but not all of them. Teachers don't feel valued. A need to build trust with teachers. Division between union and administration. Departments working in silos. I mentioned that. Also, some school offices are unfriendly. More DLI support. Bring teacher tutors back. Clarity on school-wide behavior. A need for equity and kindness. And then one size does not fit all. Better communication. Lack of clarity from human resources. Communication to principals. District and school sites speaking the same language. And so those were some of the challenges that I heard from the voices of those that I spoke. And then expectations. I don't know if people were just afraid to tell me or say anything to me. I didn't get a lot from there except for, keep doing what you're doing and to be visible and student focused. A lot of people just said, just be out there. We just want to see you. And so that was something that was pretty consistent with the meetings that I had. And so from that, I created my focus areas, my 3 focus areas. And really, they're really just one, but they connect so closely together that you need one in order to do the other. And so the first focus area there is relationship building. And really, it came from feedback that I'd gotten. Again, this type of reflection where you have people saying the same thing, but one being a challenge and one being a celebration. And so it really was about the relationships. And so some of the actions that will be taken or have been taken in regards to this focus area is listening meetings. I want to try and decrease the grievances, the amount of grievances and or unfair labor practices that we have with our unions. I want to still have a board governance workshop to develop the relationship with the Board of Education. And just started our evaluation process for management and making sure that management has an evaluation system for feedback and conversation and growth. And then SEL, looking into different areas of social emotional development, not just for the sharing screen thing is in the way, but it says SEL for students and staff. And so I think it's important for us to have that for both students and staff. Thank you. Are you doing that? Okay, now this. Was that you?
Mr. Magic.
This is really not funny.
Dr. McDonough, before you move on, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of my students mentioned today around like areas for improvement for the school. They specifically mentioned not only the mental health of students, but of our staff.
Absolutely.
So, it really made me feel good as an educator to hear my students thinking about their well-being and the well-being of their peers, but clearly they're noticing when their staff, their teaching staff and others could use some more of that attention as well.
Yeah, and Mr. Valencia, just to mention that quickly, I've been going to schools and talking with staff members, and it really is important for us to understand that we all have gone through the pandemic, and we've all had trauma as a result of that, whether it's with our own children, whether it's with our own families. And so it is something that is real and something that we need to continue to look at and continue to address. So thank you for that. This clicker is working, so we'll move on to communications. Communications is my next area of focus, and really the actions, really frequent and meaningful communication, transparent communication, improving labor partner communication, and just a systematic look, streamlining the duplication of efforts through departments and communication. And so those are the things that we're going to be looking at through communications. I don't know if I've told you in a board update or not, but I am doing a newsletter monthly to send out and to be on Facebook and through Parent Square. Gotta get used to lingo still here, but through Parent Square as well. And then finally, the district strategic plan. I'm excited about this piece because we want to begin in January of 2023, so in a few months, to begin this process. It's not just a plan. It's about strategic thinking, and it's about strategic planning, and then it's about strategic action. And so in January, just to take you through this timeline, we'll begin going through strategic thinking in January. And I have some internal facilitators to the district that are going to really be coordinating the strategic plan and developing it, getting the action teams together, doing all the groundwork to facilitate these meetings. And then really, in March, we're going to have a strategic planning team that will meet for a 3-day planning session to draft out beliefs, mission, parameters, objectives, and strategies. And these are the cardinal features of a strategic plan. And really, that strategic planning team is going to be a cross-section of our community, from those that are part of Boys and Girls Club or part of, is it MECOP or MICOP? MECOP? Both ways, MICOP. A lot of, we'll have teacher representation, we'll have board representation as well. I hope we'll definitely have a cross-section of this community in order to create these beliefs and really have it reflect really the voice of the entire community. And so just kind of going through that, I'm not going to go through each of the areas, but we'll go through that through the end of June. We'll have our cardinal features. And then when we come back, part 2 of that in August through September of next year, or the fall, when we come back, we'll actually take those strategies and we'll begin creating action teams to be able to create actions that go to those strategies. They'll come back and they'll be approved by the board for September of 2023. And once we have our district strategic plan, then we will begin to look at our school sites and school planning for strategic thinking and strategic planning. But that's really where we want to go with this. And I think it is so important for us to have those. So the actions here: common beliefs, mission, parameters, and objectives, developing strategies and action plans. Within those strategies and action plans, it will be, I believe, inherent diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then again, the values, it values community voices, culture, and input when we do this and when we engage in work of strategic thinking and strategic planning. And so with that, it's not, like a big magic thing that I've done or nothing, but look at this community and see that this is the first step in order for us to really begin looking at student achievement and looking at growth of our students. And I've said this before, to people who will listen to me, that, it's not the programs that we provide. It's not the curriculum. It's not any of that unless you have people who have lasting and connected relationships behind a mission that is solid and it stands for kids. It has to be student focused and it has to be something that students really developing a new reality for our students, something that a system that we have now can't produce. We can change in the system as many times as fall comes and the spring comes, but we need to have a change of the system. And so that's what I want to do for the students here and the staff and the community here at Santa Maria Bonita School District. So, that's it. That's my 100-day report. Do you have any questions for me?
I'm sure there will be questions along the way.
I'm sure.
Dr. McDuffie, on the, when you were talking about the strategic plan and March and the actions there on the last page, are you putting vision together with mission, or is that something that you feel is one and the same or interrelated?
Yes, with the strategic planning, it's one and the same. A vision, a mission really is the key driver to everything that we do. And so it's based in what reality we want for our students, and that is the mission of Santa Maria Bonita. So this particular type of strategic planning, the mission is the key driver of everything else that we do.
I would say, Dr. McDuffie, I appreciate that point about being intentional about us looking at our vision, our beliefs, our values, because I've been on the board now in December, it'll be 2 years, and I see behind me some core values, but I hardly ever hear us referring back to these statements. I have a feeling that many of us do abide by many of these, wonderful sounding things, but even as a board member, right, I feel like, what is our vision? What is our mission? So the opportunity for all of us to come together as a school community to discuss things and to have that investment, right? Not buy-in, but investment. That's a conversation that I know that we've had is I don't want people to just to do things out of compliance, right? But because, like you mentioned, because our students are at the heart of it, the relationships are at the heart of our work, it's going to be something that we're all committed and invested to. Yeah. So I really appreciate that, because I think that that's something that's going to really help bring us together and really help take our student success to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And the core values here are really important in us moving forward. And it's important to have people who are part of that be part of the strategic planning team as well, because it gives us context in which how those were created. Were they created by one person, 2 people, 3 people? Was it created by the community? And so those things are important for us to know. And right now it's traditional, it's artifactual, but we want something that is created anew with this community that we have right now. And so that's exciting work. And you talk about buy-in. Yeah, you're right. It's about investment. It's about ownership and being a part of something that is created and that you have a piece of that creation.
I think it's exciting work. Very exciting work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McDuffie. I'll acknowledge receipt of the superintendent's update 100-day report as presented. Ms. Cordero, would you have like anything to report out?
I've been busy and I've been to a number of schools for some different events. Last week, I was able to be at Rice when they were doing their math program during the day for the students, and I believe they had one evening where parents were also invited. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was the same presenter / representative from a math project that is independently run, but I volunteered to man one of the stations, and it was a lot of fun. I always enjoy being able to, talk with the students and see their little creative juices flowing. And the station that I was at was called 10 Black Dots. And there were some examples of pictures, where they had incorporated the 10 black dots into the picture, but they were encouraged to create their own. And it was interesting. I was there for a couple of hours, and I think 3 different groups, 3 classes in each group came through, and not one student made a pizza with the 10 black dots. And that's the first thing I thought of, was making a pizza. Somebody said that earlier in the morning, a student had made a pizza, but the dots had been for the crust, not for the pepperonis or whatever. So there were some very creative outcomes, and it was a lot of fun. Wednesday was the quarterly schools meeting, which is always an interesting opportunity. Both John and I were able to attend. The high school district is nearing completion of their new buildings that are on the Santa Maria High School campus, and are getting excited about that. Anthony Garcia commented that he was very glad to see that there is now more articulation with the high school district. And Dr. Walters was there from Hancock and kind of made a request that, we're doing so much starting in elementary to really encourage students to, when they get into high school, to complete all of the A through G requirements. And he just kind of asked that the messaging be go on to college, but not quite as big a push to go on as their first step to a UC or CSU, but to see Hancock as a very good place to move on to before going into that 4-year cycle. That their programs are very highly respected, and they also, Hancock has been working quite closely with the high school district for their vocational ed and the CTE programs that are being offered at the new Career and Technical Education Center. There was some discussion about, are we collectively, our superintendents or representatives, talking about school safety, and, that kind of keeps coming back to land square in our faces as more and more incidents occur across the country, and that is happening. In Orchid, they they're in the process of building a new gym for Orchid Academy, and but are still somewhat stifled and not having a lot of success with reestablishing connectivity in Casmalia, when at the end of last year they were dropped from the system. So that has been kind of an ongoing structure, stress, because they do still have their independent study program out there. And of course, there are families that live out there that don't have the connectivity that they need. The city talked about, they are implementing in stages the fiber optic connectivity, and that is happening in the northwest part of town quite a bit. And there was some conversation about the social host ordinance that the council recently approved, where any adult in a home, whether it's theirs or someone else's, if they are present when there are underage kids there and they are doing things that are not legally acceptable, that they can and will be held accountable. So as always, it was a very interesting meeting. And John, if I missed anything, you can fill in there. Of course, our dedication at Bill Libben last Thursday. Maggie, I don't know who you worked with, but I know you were an integral portion of making that all happen. And I've had people just, kind of that I recognize just say, oh, the ribbon cutting or the dedication was just so special. And it absolutely was. I mean, we tend, in my opinion, since we've had a number of new schools open, we do a darn good job of dedicating them. But this was just so heartfelt and heartwarming, and everybody comments about two things. Of course, the children dancing, the first graders, and which was totally awesome. And then a first grader came up to lead the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think he just got stage fright. Mm-hmm. But it was just incredible. He started, I pledge allegiance, and, then everybody in the audience just starts, I pledge allegiance to the flag of and then it was like silent, and everybody realized that he had stopped, and I think, Matt, you're the one that was kind of behind him, cueing him. And so we did a call and response Pledge of Allegiance that was so special. And it was so amazing how every person there fell right in step with doing it that way. Every person. And so, that in and of itself will make it totally memorable. On Friday, in one of our bulletins, we've been told about a bike program that the Santa Barbara County Coalition had brought, and they had it at Fairlawn last week. So I stopped by to check that out, and just the excitement on the kids. It was Friday, so they'd already had at least 2 lessons, and the confidence, I can do this now, I can do it. And the excitement and all of that. And then, of course, at Adam, they had Rock Your School, which was full of many classrooms doing some very unique things. I have to say personally that while the lighting effects, and the glow lights were okay, but the third grades that had all collaborated and had made their rooms into bat caves with all kinds of information, and the kids were writing and doing a whole bunch of different things, all related to bats. I actually learned a couple of things that I didn't know. So that was very fun. And then finally, I looked at the list of Red Ribbon Week activities, and noted that at Fessler, they were going to do a parent presentation last night on drugs in conjunction with Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley. There was a fair turnout, maybe 40 or 50 parents. Some of the information that was shared about how drugs, including alcohol and various illegal medical things are hidden, and the way they do it with things that they can go to the mall and buy little gadgets at the Spencer's place and conceal things. I was astounded, absolutely astounded. And I sat there wanting to just shake my head, but I refrained from that. But I went home thinking, oh my goodness, if I had a teen right now as a parent, I'd be scared out of my skin over things that are available and advertised openly on social media. It's simply astounding and very, very frightening. So I don't think we necessarily, based on the feedback that I, in speaking with Dr. Palmerston at Fessler, parents are hearing a lot about it, but kids are continuously being reminded, and when things occur, it's an ongoing conversation. So Red Ribbon Week is not just a one-week event in this time.
Hollingshead?
Yeah, when I was talking to Mark on Friday, he was discussing providing actual props, things so that the parents could know what the different items looked like, and that was pretty powerful. But also that a lot of the Red Ribbon Week's activities were going to be, and with the student advisory committee were Mr. Doss and the other teacher, I forget who was doing that. Some of those things that they're doing on campus during the week. Again, more student voice is happening at Fessler, and so that's always good to hear. And I always compliment Dr. Palmerston on being really cognizant of that and kind of leading in it. In regard to what I was talking about with the CTE and also with Hancock, one of the things that was presented by Dominic Polero was that the notion that the CTE, and this is how I think it really kind of pertains to us, is really that continuum. So again, with our junior highs and trying to create that articulation, the CT is broadening the availability.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a terminal thing. I mean, that was really the emphasis that Dominic was trying to make, was that it opens more doors rather than being something that pigeonholes you. Kind of the old way of thinking is, vocational training versus complete, your high school degree and going on to four-year education. It opens more doors. And part of what Kevin was talking about, Dr. Walter, was that counselors and families tend to think of Hancock as a fallback, literally using those words. And so he, again, very similar to what Mr. Polero was, that thinking about it in the context of it being a venue to open more doors and be more expansive, and that they're going to They're still in the works of trying to partner with a couple of, they're looking at who to partner with for a CSU to maybe offer some four-year degrees, much in the way that one of the community colleges in San Diego does with SDSU. They offer a four-year degree, it's SDSU, and I forget the name of it. Do you remember the name of the college? But that campus. So if you're familiar with Penn State, Johnstown, or something, it'd be something like, it would be something on that order. So you wouldn't necessarily be on San Diego State's. You could take San Diego State classes as a second or third or fourth year, but that the degree would be conferred from that junior college. So he's looking into those things. Couple of things. The one thing that really struck me, and I would like to see if we can kind of collaborate with Orchid on this, is I talked to Holly Eads after their presentation or after the meeting, and I also talked to her at the Living dedication. They're having all of their fourth graders go to the YMCA and learn how to swim. They don't already know, but they're all going to learn how to swim. And she would be more than happy to kind of bring that team that's gotten that together. I think they have the advantage of having folks that are on the Y board that are part of their district. But I think this is a great place for us to partner with the high school district with their pools. I know in having been a swim parent that the city is not very cooperative with their pool, but I think that we can also reach out to them and work on that. Edwin Weaver has been super supportive of this. He's more than game with Fight Back. This has been one of the big things that he's always been trying to push, as far as things for our students to be healthy and safe with, but also may open up another activity for them. So I would love to see us kind of do something on that order. Just establishing the discussion and the logistics of it.
Yeah, and just to let you know, we have our meetings with superintendents on Friday, and we had that very discussion, including Guadalupe, in regards to water safety and how we get our students and our program more robust than what it is now. So yeah, we're starting those conversations.
Awesome.
Our high schools have pools.
Yeah. So, and then I'm sure all of us would say all the same glowing things about the Living dedication, and I think really it did have that kind of that family feel, that home and comfort feel. I personally would have loved to have seen the kids up on that beautiful stage instead of down on the ground so everybody could see them. And they were right in front. We got the bird's eye view. I felt bad for the people in the back that were kind of.
We're about ready to move the chairs.
Reading their nets, yeah. But in that vein, that is an amazing facility. And so we don't have a PAC. We don't have what PD and the high school district has. And I know that most of our sites that do have things are pretty small. I've been to the TK had done some things in the past, but I would really love to see some of our VPA include drama and or making that live-in facility kind of a hub for those kinds of things. It's a large stage, very well equipped, and probably could be even more well equipped. And I would love to see that become kind of a highlight of the district and a focal point for performing arts. So that it doesn't go unused but it was fantastic.
Yeah, the entry into it and the exit is right into the parking lot, so you don't have to go through the whole school either. Yeah, you're right. That would be.
But anyways, those are my few observations. Thanks.
Valencia?
Yeah, there's a lot of wonderful things happening in our local community. And I feel really lucky to be a part of it. And I invite all of you, to partake in all the wonderful activities that are happening in our community. As many of you know, Election Day is coming up this Tuesday, November the 8th. We won't meet again as a board until after elections. But I just wanted to take a moment to remind our community that now we have, by trustee area voting, right, which is a distinction of how voting has taken place in the past. I see this as an opportunity for civic engagement learning for our students. And so anything that we can do as a district and as educators to inform our students, right, of what are, what does voting look like, right? Who is eligible to vote and how can you engage in the election process, I think is really key, because the state of California now has a seal by the name of the Seal of Civic Engagement, where they'll actually be given credit and recognition for learning about civic engagement. So the sooner we can expose our students to what it means to be an active citizen, I think the more it's going to help them to be successful in their high school and career beyond high school. I also wanted to give some recognition to the League of Women Voters, as well as the Future Leaders of America. They put on a school board forum for Santa Maria Joint Union High School District school board candidates. And what I saw was a model of civic discourse, because it wasn't like what you see on TV where there's the politicians slinging mud at each other and talking bad at each other. Like, these are like, adults not always giving us a good example. At this forum, it was like respectful dialogue, sharing of ideas, sharing of platforms. And that made me really proud to be a part of a community that engages in politics, but in a way that I think sets a positive tone, because we know, unfortunately, that unfortunately politics can sometimes be very divisive, but it doesn't have to be. And so I was really happy to attend that school board forum and to see our League of Women Voters and students, because it was also organized by Future Leaders of America. And the students did a wonderful job. They had very excellent questions for their school board candidates. So even though some of these students are not even eligible to vote yet, will be in a year or two, they're already engaging in the political process. So I think that's really wonderful. So major kudos to Future Leaders and League of Women Voters. I also had the privilege to attend the City Council forum hosted by the League of Women Voters. And again, what I saw was a well-organized, opportunity for our local City Council candidates to present their platform. And I was really impressed with the organization of it, and I appreciated the opportunity to hear from the candidates. I also wanted to let folks know, some of you may or may not know, but the month of October is Filipino American Heritage Month. And I appreciated seeing the many wonderful things that our district did to support Latinx Latino Heritage Month. And I went online just to do some real brief, some quick research. And I came across a website dedicated to honoring Filipino American heritage. And I just want to read for you a quick excerpt of what I found. It says, Filipino Americans are the second largest Asian American group in the nation and the third largest ethnic group in California, after Latinas, Latinos, and African Americans. The celebration of Filipino American History Month in October commemorates the first recorded presence of Filipinos in the continental United States, which occurred on October the 18th, 1587, when, quote, Luzones Indios came ashore from the Spanish galleon Nuestra Señora de Esperanza and landed on what is now Morro Bay, California. So this is also our local history. In 2009, U.S. Congress recognized October as Filipino American History Month in the United States. Various states, counties, and cities in the U.S. have established proclamations and resolutions declaring observance of Filipino American History Month. And I got to say, I feel really, speaking of feeling blessed to be a local here, I grew up near, near the Church of San Juan Newman and near Oakley School. And in that community, when I was growing up in middle school, it was a really diverse neighborhood, Filipinos, white folks, Latinos, and it was really awesome just how organically, right? We would play basketball together at the Boys and Girls Club. We would just hang out at each other's houses. And I feel really lucky that I had that exposure to our Filipino community, because they're a really vibrant and very active part of our community. And I'm really happy to also see that the Santa Maria Times did an article dated October the 22nd, highlighting some of this local history. So we know that when we recognize these things, it's not only to pay attention to groups during this month, right, but to just as reminders to commemorate and things that we can do throughout the year to honor this important history. Similar to what Ms. Cordero brought up about, swimming and MOVE, I believe it was, right, the bike organization. I was really happy to see that we're partnering with MOVE Santa Barbara County. These folks basically teach our young people about how to ride bikes safely and about bike safety in general. I believe it's during their PE courses. So I appreciated seeing that in our weekly board updates, because I know that that's something that we want to promote more, right, is more bike safety, making our cities hopefully more accessible, right, for bike riding, also which limits congestion congestion and also increases health and nutrition. So I'm excited to see more of those types of partnerships. I also appreciated seeing in our weekly update Schoolyard Rap, which was one of the ways that we commemorated Latino History Month. Dr. McDuffie and I were exposed to these folks when we recently attended a conference. And it was nice to see that we were to bring, some folks that were able to energize our students, right, with some history, but in the form of raps and hip hop, which we know that many of our young people tend to gravitate to. And so it was really, really fun to see pictures of that. And it seemed like many of our staff really, really enjoyed that, as well as our students. So thank you for coordinating that. I was also really happy to see from the video links we received as board members at Miller School, they have sort of like a mini broadcast that two teachers were a part of on September the 16th. I loved seeing how eager like teachers were in sharing like the news that was happening in their school. And so I just want to give a shout out to the folks at Miller School for doing these broadcasts that educate students on what's happening on the campus and doing it in a really fun and engaging way. Next, I wanted to share with you all that on October the 29th, this weekend from 1 to 3:30, you all might be familiar with the Breaking Through book by Dr. Jimenez. We happen to name a school after him, so that's really awesome that our district did that, recognizing one of our local leaders. Well, one of the books one of his books is being converted into a play, and there's going to be a play at the Abel Maldonado Center in the gym. So I think of that as an extra credit opportunity for my high school students, and I hope that our district staff, educators will encourage their students and their families to attend. It's a free event, and I believe Dr. Jimenez might be there actually, as well as some of the actors. So that's an exciting opportunity that I hope all of you can partake in. And Dia de los Muertos is also on the horizon very soon. And on October the 30th, so this weekend, once again, from 1 to 4 at the mall, Corazón del Pueblo is going to be organizing an opportunity to be able to check out different altars. I believe they're inviting the community to come and also share a picture of a loved one or somebody that they want to commemorate. And so if you're looking for ways to, have a family-friendly evening out and also honoring culture and honoring our loved ones that have passed away, I invite you all to the mall on October 30th from 1 to 4, organized by Corazón del Pueblo. Also in Guadalupe, at 6:30 on November the 2nd, they're also having a Dia de los Muertos commemoration. And what I appreciate about Dia de los Muertos is that it's an indigenous tradition that's been practiced for over 1,000 years. And it's near and dear to my heart. My family are from Michoacán, and the film Coco, many of the indigenous traditions from Dia de los Muertos actually come from certain parts of Michoacán. So that makes me very proud of my heritage and seeing how my heritage is inspiring and impacting the world in such a profound way. So that's happening in Guadalupe on November the 2nd at 6:30 at the Guadalupe Cultural Center. And lastly, I had the privilege of attending the PICA parent graduation at Fessler, along with some board members and Dr. McDuffie. And one of the things that struck me the most was the parent testimonials. The parents shared journeys of economic hardship, of migrating to this country to provide their children with unlimited opportunities. And they were able to talk to their children directly and say, hey, I believe in you. I'm educating myself so that you can get a better education as well. And for me, that was just a really, really powerful opportunity to see how much love and commitment our families have and why it's so important to have programs like PICA to empower our parents, because many of them said things like, I didn't know that college was a possibility for my child. I didn't think we could afford it. But now that they've gone through PICA, they understand that that there's options available to them. And once our children can see that they have options, I think that they'll be even more inspired to do better academically. So lots of wonderful things happening in our community, and I'm really proud of being a part of this. And I hope that you all will join me in many of these great activities. Thank you.
Flores?
Just to add to Mr. Valencia's Filipino celebration month, the public library has a wonderful display right now. They had Rosie Sagisi, whose children attended our school, and it's related on my husband's side because he's half Filipino. They put up a really nice display with the history, all in the Morro Bay, all the way to indications of how the culture brings in and supports the different activities, the Filipino Community Center that we have in town also. So if you get a chance, go in there and you can see the display. And several schools have taken field trips to the library to actually see the display. So it's really very exciting. Again, thank you for the opportunity to have that ribbon cutting ceremony. Very, very well attended. It was just a nice way to gather and see all of the support that it took also to get that school built. We had ongoing people from the past who participated. Matt, you did a great job moderating and acknowledging all of the individuals, and gave us a good history too. Some of us forgot how much that took to get all of that built. But it's truly an activity that was very well attended and worthwhile. I have been spending just a little bit of time at El Camino. I know you know that there was a drive-by and that they did have to have a lockdown. And when you have individuals that you know and a daughter who teaches there, you just kind of go and make sure that she has some support. I got to do a lot of extra little things for her as she was taking deep breaths the next couple of days after that. Because when you're teaching PE and you're one of the first people out there on the ground and you hear it and you're calling the lockdown, you just have to make sure that you are okay. And I appreciate Dr. McDuffie, Brian Zimmerman, the staff that got there, and the support with the counselors that came the next day, because it involved 2 people being shot right there. And so with that, there is the trauma and the interpretation of just how to deal with that. I was just thankful that nobody else on our campuses were hurt in terms of any of that from the street coming onto our campuses. And I just appreciated, and I wanted to mention the full support, even your support being there on the campus, Dr. McDuffie, making sure everybody was okay, was really well received. So I just got to help out a little bit this past week.
Okay, well, my turn. I too attended the PK graduation along with Dr. McDuffie and Mr. Valencia and got to listen to the parents speak. But the young lady that came from Mexico, I want to say her last name was Mendez. She got up and spoke that you can be a prodigy coming from Mexico and succeed. And she's doing her student teaching there. And I took my hat off to her and talked to her and told her that was awesome. From there, we pushing my time. I ended up going to Rice to the math festival. I went a little late, but I made it there. Mrs. Crane wasn't there, and I promised to stop there. I'd try to be back there on the following day, but wasn't able to make it. But what I did see was awesome. The kids were still there, a lot of engagement. And then I was involved with Miss Hamilton's PK Zoom meeting with her parents. That was really awesome. All the parent participation and their feedback, and how Mrs. Hamilton really has a great connection with their parents. And I even spoke to the parents and told them how proud I was of them to have these concerns and questions, and told them that, if they're not getting the right answers, like Ms. Hamilton said, that I told them that they need to go to the schools and, they will be directed. And that was a great program because I went through it in high school with my son. That's when I first learned about it. And then the living dedication was awesome. All of us that were there was, you felt it, everybody felt it. And it hit me especially because Bill is one of my mentors growing up. He was there by my side growing up as a 5th grader and beyond years afterwards. And we are still really, really close friends. And he's just well-deserved in that school, the Bill Living Elementary School, and it was very, very heartfelt. Barely made it from work, but I got there. And that's all I've got. Dr. McDuffie?
Thank you, President Laura, board members. You have mentioned just about everything that I was going to say right here on your paper, but I'm going to read anyway. And be brief about it. But first of all, thank you. On October 13th, I was pleased to take Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Susan Salcedo, on a tour of El Camino Junior High School. We visited several classrooms, including the classroom of language arts teacher Crystal Guzman, who has been honored, who will be honored by Santa Barbara County as Distinguished New Educator. So that event, I think, is next weekend, and I will be there. She's invited me. She's an awesome addition to El Camino Junior High School. Also, on the evening of October 14th, I attended Corazon del Pueblo Cultural and Creative Arts Center reopening. It was well attended. Board member Valencia was there as well. And nice to see many community members supporting that organization. Also, we talked about Filipino American History Month, and you already mentioned this, Ms. Flores, but at the Santa Maria Public Library, they're helping celebrate Filipino American history by providing Filipino American history packs for children aged 6 to 12. Last week, I attended a fantastic event with Board President Lara and Board Member Valencia, and that was PK parent graduation at Fessler Junior High School. 106 parents were from Fessler graduated from PK. Yes, it was a great event. And for those who are unfamiliar with the acronym PK, it stands for Parent Institute for Quality Education. And the program teaches parents and family members how to support their students in schools, as well as how to be leaders in schools and communities. Last Thursday was the official dedication for Living. We talked about that. And I too, this was my first dedication as superintendent, so it's special to me, and it was a really cool event to be a part of. And so I thank you for that. Nice job, staff. Maggie, our terrific MC Matt, did a great job as well. Let's see where I'm at. After Living dedication, I went over to Tunnel. I saw board member Cordero over at Tunnel Elementary School, where we had they had their fall festival. Too much candy, but teachers were there, and it was just so many parents there. It was just a beautiful time where there were activities that were put together for families and students, and had a great time there. On Sunday, October 30th, in collaboration with Corazon del Pueblo, Santa Maria Joint Union High School District, and Santa Maria Town Center, there will be a Dia de los Muertos community event at the mall, already mentioned, and it will include altar displays, workshops, a community mural, resources, fundraisers, student art, and entertainment. The altars will be displayed October 28th, 29th, and November 1st and 2nd. And they're called ofrenda? Is it ofrenda? So just to mention, we have an ofrenda here at the district office with is it first floor and the second floor? Up on the second floor, if you want to come by, take a look at it. We have staff members participating in that, and there is also a explanation of what it is and the history behind that. So we look forward to people displaying their loved ones on that ofrenda at the upstairs as well. So. And finally, this is finally, I said finally, you guys ready? I know you all are, all of you. Finally, today I had a chance to go over to Fairlawn to check out the PE department and the bike program that they put on. I know I came into education and I love the students. Second and third grade students were learning about bike safety, and also Principal Alvarez and I worked out with our sixth graders while they were preparing for their fitness test. So between the two of us, we did like 13 curl-ups, I think they're called. 6.5 curl-ups. There are photos on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. You will see me. 6.5. At Superintendent SMBSD. In any case, trust me, the students did an outstanding job and better than me and the principal did. I want to thank the PE teachers, Mr. Mazzari and Mr. Clare, for their hard work with our young people. And so that is all I have, President Laura. Thank you so very much.
I have just two more things I forgot. When I was at Tunnel, I did go over there for their fall festival. Their principal was on the stage having pie thrown at her. And I stood there and somebody said, "Do you want to do that?" And I said, "No. I would never do that to another principal." And I have to say, sorry, kids, I don't know that I could ever do that. And the second thing, the young lady at El Camino who is being recognized, Crystal Guzman, her start was with the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Maria Valley. And that's where I first met her and knew her. And she had great experiences that she carried over. And because of the encouragement and support of the staff at Boys and Girls Club, she went on and is now one of our teachers. So at the dedication of the school, having been on the board for the Boys and Girls Club for a number of years, it was so wonderful to see so many people there who were on the board at the same time as I was before Mr. Libben retired. So that really, to me, shows that there's a lot of caring and support for what he really did for so many in our community. And I just, the richness of that history, as with Jimenez, as with many of our other schools whose ancestors are honored, but who still have family that work and live and attend our schools is what really does make Santa Maria so very, very special. Now I'm done.
Well, with that, I just want to say one thing, finally.
Okay,
As the weekend comes upon us, all you parents that have kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, take them to all the fun places to go trick-or-treating that are out there, that are going on this weekend, you know. But you know they're going to want to go out on Halloween. Just make sure they're safe and they've got some lighting on them, because you know what? There's people out there that aren't watching and driving, so our kids are very precious to all of us, as being our own and your own and everybody else's. So I just want to wish you guys a happy Junior Friday and enjoy the rest of the week.